You know what it's like, you wait ages for one Hamlet to come along, and suddenly 6 show up from nowhere. To bus, or not to bus? That appears to be the question. In a little over 6 months, this immortal to-be line has been delivered on a professional UK stage over 175 times. If you don't believe me, feel free to do your own maths and let me know in the comments. Don't let me know. We've had Sir Ian McKellen in an age-blind Hamlet, Cuss Jumbo in a gender-blind Hamlet, Freddie Fox's blind drunk Hamlet, and I'm not going to make any reference to drunkenness and the Birmingham accent used in the Globe's comedic Hamlet. It's yet to be seen whether it will also be spoken in the balletic Hamlet opening this year's Edinburgh Festival, or whether it will be spoken by the lead character, acted yet again by Sir Ian McKellen. There was a time when playing Hamlet was an actor's aspiration. Today, with so many Hamlets falling over each other to be the King of Denmark, it seems little more than an obligation. With such competition, productions of Hamlet often focus less on the bones of the play and more on the clever treatment being given this time, as we know these Hamlets as the female version, the older version. We don't just talk about the Hamlet itself. The text becomes little more than a scaffold upon which directors can build a statue in their own honour. Heavy on style, light on substance. It feels like if we don't understand Hamlet as a play already, it's tough, we've missed the boat. These productions are for us to appreciate the intelligence of the director's theatrical interpretation. So it is even more refreshing that here we have a Hamlet that just lays out the story as it was intended, done very simply with no fuss and no frills. It's like the ABC of Hamlet, and that's no insult. The Hamlet goes back to basics, and it is a version you can see and enjoy without having to have read every one of Michael Billington's reviews beforehand. It reminds us that underneath all the pretension and pomp to Shakespeare, there is a damn good story in Hamlet. He was pretty good, that Shakespeare bloke, wasn't he? Unfortunately, this is also a production you are unlikely to see. The show's performance times of 11 AM and 1:30 make it difficult for most working adults to attend, unless you're a teacher or an 8-year-old adult without a job. This stripped-down version is specifically aimed and adapted for young audiences. Writer Jude Christian, who's directed shows herself at the Gate, the Court, the Lyric Hammersmith and the Royal Exchange, has cut over 2 hours from the play, so that it runs at a delightfully efficient 65 minutes. And she's not hacked it to death. The most essential elements of the main plotline are still here. The language hasn't been modernised to make it sound down with the kids. Instead, she acknowledges a change in language by having the odd addition of natural speech that sounds ad-libbed in a good way around the most well-known original verse. Director Tineke Craig allows her actors to really take time over the lines, simplifying their meaning just through the way they're delivered. Kebaili-Dwyer makes eye contact with the very young audience for his Hamlet's to be not to be, involving them in his quandary, rather than putting his inner turmoil on display for us to watch as if showing off his self-pity. Being able to maintain interest from a generation used to the immediacy of today is more challenging than ever before. Overstimulating them will lose them just as easily. So what they've done here is follow the structure that is recognisable from TV shows and other content services today, mixing up music with interaction, with involvement, with speech, in order to keep that energy and maintain that pace going. Craig uses clear visual signifiers repeatedly, to create consistent representations of emotions and characterizations that can be got straight away. So, for example, Hamlet's moments of madness are accompanied by a flickering, buzzing neon light overhead. It's subtle, not intrusive, it's hardly noticeable, but it is there, and subliminally it sets the required atmospheric tension. The simple costumes rely on strong colours to show clear sides of good, bad, and the tribes that the characters sit in. So the royals, for example, wear green suits. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern's, their parts much increased as the children-friendly jokers of the pack, the parts that were played by the soap operas of this were panto, wear clownish red. The dark moments are managed deftly. The ghost is scary enough, primarily due to it being around 8 foot tall, but it is still clearly just a bedsheet and should be okay for all but the littlest of little uns. When each character dies, come on, you know this is Hamlet. The actors simply drape a handkerchief over their head as they leave the stage. Nothing over the top, nothing morose. It eschews all attention and keeps the children engaged throughout. I mentioned pantomime, and for me, there are a few moments that feel a little too Shakespeare done panto. So during the necessary pre-show, the actors are all on stage as themselves, asking what schools are in the audience and overweight with their new best friend, like they're really pleased to see them, and it feels just a little bit too what adults think adults should be like when they're talking to children, a bit like play school presenters around 1975. And personally, I winced at the dad dancing during the wedding party. I appreciate this is a very good way to set up and introduce the characters, almost Encanto-esque. But the performances seem a little bit too self-aware of doing the comedy dancing, and the tune seemed odd to me, setting it to "Yo, I told you, you can't touch this." Maybe nostalgic for many of us, but from the perspective of an 8-year-old, a song released over 30 years ago may as well have been released at the time of Shakespeare himself. Stop! Hammer time! Such things may make the adult theatregoer cringe, but they are spot on for the intended audience. However, cuter ways of achieving the same objective of inclusion are seen. For example, when a soliloquy is delivered as a boy-girl duet, and when the audience are asked to make the sounds of the forest for the play within the play, with the wind on one side, the animals on the other. These little tricks, when they work, manage to change the pace, maintain attention, and break down any distancing sense of them on stage and us eating our sweets in the dark. At the same time, the text never feels like it is being talked down to the children, or that it has been oversimplified just for them. The company always feels like they are sharing this story with their audience, not just delivering it to them on a plate. Overall, this is an inspired production, one that I'm sure will inspire generations of children who see it to have an interest in theatre they'll take through to their adulthood. And although the run at the National Theatre was only brief, keep an eye out for it on its nationwide tour of schools. It's only unfortunate and unlucky that us grown-ups, and we are grown-ups, don't get a treat as simple and as joyous as this. Something I'll be thinking about, and I'm sure you will, the next time you're stuck in 4 hours of a Hamlet set against the backdrop of World War II and performed using the medium of interpretive dance.